If you're thinking about retiring in Thailand, there's something you need to hear. Some of what you've been told is wrong. Not completely wrong, but incomplete. And incomplete information can be dangerous when you're making a life-changing retirement decision. Today I want to talk about the 5 biggest lies people believe about retiring in Thailand. This first one is probably the biggest lie of them all. Now, to be fair, it's not completely false. Thailand can be cheap. You can eat fantastic street food for very little. Local transport can be cheap. Markets can be cheap. A simple Thai lifestyle can be very affordable. And this is where a lot of retirees get excited. They come here for a holiday, see 60 baht noodles, cheap massages, cheap taxis, and start doing the maths. They think, if meals are cheap, my retirement budget will go miles. But here's the problem with that. Most retirees don't actually live like locals. And I don't mean that critically. It's just the reality. When you move abroad, you bring your habits with you. Your comforts, your standards, your routines. Maybe you want proper coffee every morning. Maybe you prefer shopping in supermarkets with imported products. Maybe you want a modern condo in a good area with security, a lift, and reliable air conditioning. Then there's private healthcare, health insurance, grab rides, Western restaurants, trips back home to see the family. That all adds up fast. And this is the part many YouTube videos kind of skip. Thailand is cheap until you try to recreate your Western lifestyle in Southeast Asia. That's when people get caught out. Because retirement isn't about surviving, it's about living comfortably. There's a huge difference between can I actually technically live in Thailand on a very small budget and can I live the retirement lifestyle I actually want? Those are two very different questions. I've seen retirees underestimate this badly, not because they're reckless, because lifestyle inflation happens quietly. A nicer condo here, a few imported groceries there, regular hospital visits, a yearly trip home. Individually, none of this feels dramatic, but combined, your budget can look very different from what you thought it would be back home. So here's my advice. Don't build your retirement budget around the cheapest possible version of Thailand. Build it around the life you genuinely want to live. Be honest with yourself, because Thailand can absolutely be affordable, but cheap, that depends entirely on how you choose to live. And that brings me to lie number 2. And this one is even more important if you're thinking long term. This one is tricky because there's a lot of truth in it. Thailand genuinely has excellent private hospitals. Some are world class. Places like Bumrungrad International Hospital and Bangkok Hospital have built strong reputations for a reason. Modern facilities, excellent specialists, short waiting times. In many cases, treatment here can be faster than back home. So yes, Thailand has very good healthcare, but here's the problem. Good healthcare and successfully aging are not the same thing. And this is where many retirees get caught out. Hospitals are designed to treat medical problems. A broken hip, a heart issue, surgery, cancer treatment. They diagnose, they treat, they discharge. But what happens after that? That's the question people avoid. What happens if you had a stroke at 78? What happens if your mobility declines? What happens if you develop dementia? What happens when you don't just need treatment, but support, daily support? Help getting dressed, help showering, help managing medication, help simply getting through the day. That's not really a hospital problem anymore. That's an aging problem. And this is the part many retirees don't think about early enough. Thailand can treat medical problems extremely well, but Thailand does not automatically solve aging. That's a huge difference. In many Western countries, there are systems around aging, home care, rehabilitation, aged care facilities, support services. In Thailand, that support can be limited, expensive, or difficult for foreigners to navigate. And I'm not criticizing Thailand when I say that, it's just a different system. So here's the question I think every retiree should ask. If something happens to me in my 70s or 80s, who helps me? Your spouse, your children, a caregiver? And what if they're not here? That's the real question. Planning for aging isn't negative, it's smart. Because the people who do best in Thailand long term usually aren't just planning for today. They're planning for the version of themselves that may need help later. And that leads perfectly into lie number 3, because this is where many people make a very expensive mistake. This is probably the most financially dangerous lie on the list, and I understand why people believe it. You arrive in Thailand, you feel healthy, life feels good. And health insurance, it feels expensive. So people tell themselves, I'll sort that out later, maybe next year, maybe once they're settled in here, maybe when retirement feels more permanent. But here's the problem. Later usually gets more expensive, not cheaper. Because insurance works on risk. And as you get older, risk goes up. That means higher premiums, more exclusions, and sometimes outright rejection. This is what I call the age trap. The longer you wait, the harder it often becomes. And here's what catches people. You don't need insurance when you feel healthy. That's exactly when it's easiest to get. The cheapest time to buy good insurance is usually when you think you don't need it. Now I want to be balanced here. Not everyone needs the exact same strategy. Some retirees have enough savings to self-insure. Some combine savings with a high excess policy. That can work. But let's be honest, most people who say they can self-insure haven't actually done the maths. One serious hospital event can change everything. A heart issue, cancer, major surgery, a bad fall. Suddenly you're facing bills that can seriously damage your retirement finances. And this is why insurance isn't really about expecting disaster. It's about protecting options. It's about making sure one bad year doesn't destroy 20 good ones. So if you're planning a move to Thailand, don't keep pushing this decision into the future, because future you may have far fewer options. And this is something I see quite a lot when speaking to people privately. Two people can both dream about retiring in Thailand, but their situation can be completely different. Budget, aging, healthcare history, visa options, whether you're moving alone or as a couple, all of that changes what the right plan actually looks like. And speaking of things people underestimate, let's talk about something even harder to quantify: loneliness. This one is important because people don't talk about it enough. A lot of retirees imagine moving to Thailand and naturally become happier and more social. They think, I'll meet other expats, I'll join groups, I'll be out more, I'll finally enjoy life again. And to be fair, sometimes that happens. There are great expat communities in places like Hua Hin, Chiang Mai and Pattaya. Friendships do happen, communities do exist, but here's the reality. Moving abroad doesn't automatically solve loneliness. In fact, sometimes it magnifies it. And this is what people underestimate. When you move to Thailand, you're not just leaving a country, you're leaving familiarity, your routines, your culture, your support network, the neighbour you chatted to, the mate you've known for 20 years, your kids, your grandkids. You may not think about those things much when they're around, but when they're gone, you feel it. And this is the uncomfortable truth. You can feel lonely in paradise. That actually surprises a lot of people because they assume sunshine equals happiness. But loneliness isn't about weather. It's about connections. And if you already feel isolated before moving, there's a real chance that loneliness follows you. Thailand didn't create that problem. It just didn't solve it. Now add in other challenges, language barriers, cultural differences, expat friendships. People arrive, people leave. Social circles change. And if you lose a spouse later in life or go through a breakup, that loneliness can hit hard. So here's what I'd say. Don't treat Thailand as a solution to loneliness. Treat it as a place where you still need to build a life. That means structure, routine, community, and purpose. Be intentional about relationships. Because a good retirement isn't just about lowering living costs or warm weather. It's about building a life that still feels meaningful. And that brings me to the final lie. And this one catches more people than you'd think. This is the final lie, and it catches a lot of people. Because Thailand is very forgiving when you're a tourist. You arrive with no plan, no schedule, no real structure. And somehow, things usually work out. That's part of Thailand's charm. But retirement is different. Retirement is not a holiday. And that's where people get caught out. Because the things you can ignore for 2 weeks become very important when you're living here long term. I'm talking about things like visas, banking, tax planning, wills, healthcare planning, emergency contacts, long-term care. Not exciting topics at all, I know, but very important ones. And here's the issue. When life is good, these things don't feel urgent. They feel like paperwork, something to sort out later. But later has a habit of arriving fast, especially as you get older. Visa rules can change, tax rules can change, health can change, life can change, and problems that feel manageable at 55 can feel very different at 75. That's why planning matters. Not because you need a perfect plan, you don't. Nobody has everything figured out. But you do need a real plan. You need to ask difficult questions. What happens if I get seriously ill? What happens if I can't live independently? What happens if I need to return home quickly? Who helps me? Who makes decisions if I can't? These aren't fun questions, but they're important ones. Because Thailand is much less forgiving for retirees with no plan. And the cost of poor planning can be enormous, financially, emotionally, and practically. So get advice. Speak to professionals when needed. Not just forums, not just Facebook groups, not just random opinions online. Good planning may feel boring today, but it can save you from major problems later. And this is something I see all the time when speaking to people one-to-one. Two people can both want to retire in Thailand, but the right plan can look completely different depending on budget, health, visa options, and lifestyle goals. So if you're seriously thinking about making the move and want clarity on your own situation, things like budget, location, visas, healthcare, or long-term planning, I do offer one-to-one consultation sessions through my Buy Me a Coffee Extras section. I only take a limited number each month so I can keep them detailed and personal. You'll find it in the description below, if you find that useful. After everything we've covered, you might be thinking, this sounds complicated. Maybe Thailand isn't worth the risk. And I understand that reaction. But that's not the point of this video. I'm not here to talk you out of retiring in Thailand, far from it. Because I still believe Thailand can be one of the most rewarding places in the world to spend your retirement. The culture, the climate, the lifestyle, the pace of life. For many people, it genuinely is life-changing in a positive way. But there's something I've learned from speaking to retirees over the years. The people who struggle here long-term aren't usually unlucky. They're unprepared. They've arrived with a story in their head about what life will be like, and reality slowly replaces that story, sometimes gently, sometimes not. The people who do best here are not the ones chasing a fantasy. They're the ones who came with their eyes open. They understood the trade-offs. They planned for the uncomfortable things as well as the exciting ones. So let me leave you with this. Don't retire to Thailand because you think it will solve everything. Don't come here because you think it will always be cheap. Don't come assuming you can figure everything out later. Come because you thought it through properly, because you understand the costs, because you planned for health, money and aging, and because you're building a life, not escaping one. Go in with a fantasy and reality will correct you. Go in with a plan and Thailand can give you something genuinely special. And in my experience, the difference is everything. Thanks for watching, and if you need personal guidance, the link is in the description below.